What I'm going to read to you comes from the American Survival Guide, December of 1992. This fight's been going on a long time. The guy's name is Jim Benson. As soon as I get it over here. Yeah. But anyway, I'm going to read this to you. Guess I should have got to this a long time ago. This is called The Secret Power of the Anti-Gun Culture. And it's very important. Kind of listen, I'm going to go through this kind of fast. One often sees or hears talk in the media about the gun culture in America. This expression is always used in a negative way to cast aspirations on the very, very idea of citizens possessing firearms, the tools of power. But never is there even so much as a reference in the media to what can only be termed as the anti-gun culture in this country. Given the overwhelming anti-firearm ownership sentiment of the major media organizations and the fact that they are so intimately involved in the spread of anti-gun propaganda, it's not surprising we see or hear nothing about the anti-gun culture. Indeed, we could hardly expect all these people involved in the promotion of this horrendous lies and hatred about private gun ownership to look critically at themselves. Oh no, that would be counterproductive to their cause. Total disarmament of the American citizen. This is why the anti-gun culture must present itself not as a distinct subculture group to our society, but rather as merely millions of ordinary citizens who are shocked and horrified by this supposed epidemic of gun-related violence in society. They only want what is right and reasonable, severe restrictions on, wherever possible, and banning of firearm ownership. All of this is not to say that there are not millions of Americans who have been thoroughly brainwashed into swallowing the anti-gun ideology, who are genuinely shocked and horrified about crime and violence and want something done about it. And certainly want guns severely restricted, if not outright banned. They believe that this is the only correct and reasonable course. But I believe many of the leaders of the anti-gun culture, its strategists, ideologues, propagandists, and legislators, and others in government who promote the anti-gun ownership mentality, have more sincere, sinister motives. Crime has always been used as a reason for the supposed compelling need to impose gun control on the entire population. You can't discriminate against everybody, But when you try to rationalize with these people about crime with guns, pointing out that only a very tiny fraction of 1% of the population use guns to commit crime, you are wavered off. Your arguments are rejected out of hand of the ramblings of a maniac or a criminal. They must do this, since their arguments really don't stand up very well to logic and critical thinking. Their true goal is not the elimination of crime. Most of them know that their endless laws and regulations restricting firearm ownership have little or no effect on criminals. No, what they really want is power. Power and control over the people. This is an old story as old as civilization itself. And as the saying goes, power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely. A newspaper columnist wrote a small piece about the Second Amendment, which showed to me recently. A small newspaper in the only place where such an opinion such as his would see daylight. Anyway, he posed this rhetorical question. What is the Second Amendment for? And answered, well, basically, it's so we can kill politicians. We need arms so we can resist oppression and overthrow tyrants. If that doesn't mean killing politicians and the goons that they send to oppose us, what else does it mean? From this perspective, it's easy to see why many public servants advocate gun control, knowing that their own intentions, buried in the dark recess of their black hearts, they have an inkling of what the future may hold for them if they stay the course. Can you imagine somebody reading something like that on a major newspaper like ABC, NBC, CBS? Not likely. Instead, you only hear the exact opposite. How supposedly terrible it is for people who want to own all those awful guns, how guns are only used for killing, how much human suffering and destruction has always been committed with them, etc., etc., etc. You wonder why this is, how the anti-gun people are always made to look so logical and forthright, so righteous in their gun control arguments? This is a secret of their immense power in our society. They almost totally control the media, certainly most of the major media organizations. Correct me if I'm wrong. It wasn't Hitler's propaganda minister Joseph Goebbels who said that if you tell a lie often enough and for long enough period, the people will believe it. And that's exactly what the anti-gun culture through the major media organizations have done for decades in this country and around the world. It has had a tremendous effect. Millions of people have virtually no other information to go on but the lies of the anti-gun culture, and they have become conditioned to accept the anti-gun ownership arguments without question. And these same millions of people continue to vote for the most rabid anti-gun politicians and support their policies. You would think that the lessons of history, and particularly of our most recent ones like the LA riots, Hurricane Andrew, and Hugo, would have dealt a death blow to the cause of the anti-gun culture. Not so. Yet I remind you that Senator John Chafee of Rhode Island has introduced a bill in Congress to totally ban private possession of handguns, or that Representative Major Owens of New York is pushing to repeal the Second Amendment. If the major media of this country were pro-gun, these fanatics would disappear from public life. The citizens would never tolerate such monstrous ideas. Today we are struggling with our own would-be masters, the media elite and their comrades in the anti-gun culture. To win this struggle, we must get the truth, the facts, right out before the American people. The outcome of this struggle will mean the difference later on between us being able to remain American citizens or become American subjects. And people, that was back in 1992. Well, we kind of know that something's going to happen. You've got to have something big to go on to push them over the top. Back then, we had September 11th, when they toppled the Trade Center, and planes hit the Pentagon and so forth, and all that good stuff to scare the living hell out of people. Well, then they were going to pass the Patriot Act. But people were appalled to give that much power to the government. They know how government will abuse power. All these people run away from the clouds of dust. And this is in my local town at that time. This is people lining up at the gas pumps at night. And here you go, something else. And a lot of people don't know that. They didn't go there to, straighten up old, whatever the hell his name, Osama bin Laden. The Caspian oil wealth. And these people already were doing a summit on the Caspian oil wealth, the oil. That's what they were after, the oil. Patriot Act. Shrinks liberties. They weren't going to pass this. And here it was in the middle of the night. It was reprinted again at 3:30 a.m. The bill was rewritten again and again to get all the troublesome stuff back in. They took a bunch of stuff out of this Patriot Act. Then, in the middle of the night, it was reprinted. Now, I'm going to show you this, because I want people to say, hey, you don't know what the living hell you're talking about. Well, no, maybe so. Could be. In the middle of the night, it was reprinted at 3:30 a.m. The bill was rewritten again to get all the troublesome stuff back in that they already took out. When the members voted the following day, hardly anyone except a few staffers had actually seen the bill that they were voting on. Why the stealth? I'm afraid there are people in the administration who are so sure that they want to do is right. They are willing to stretch the facts and hide the truth in order to do it. That's dangerous business, and it can be habit forming. Yeah, here's what the lady said before this. When we found out the bill was being introduced, she told me, we went to Representative John Connors, Representative F. James Sentenberger, and begged him not to push it through for 3 days, as the Attorney General was urging. They agreed, and their committee rewrote the bill to accommodate some of the concerns. The revised bill cleared the House Judiciary by a vote of 32 to nothing. Then in the middle of the night, it was reprinted again. They put all the stuff back in. Well, what do you get out of things like that? How were they able to pass the Patriot Bill when everybody was against it? Well, here's what they did. They went back in history and pulled a Hitler thing out. Hitler burnt down the Reichstag office, the building and blamed it on the Jews. You got to do things like this. So what they do when the people wouldn't, when the Congress people wouldn't pass it, they got Amtrak letters. Oh yeah. The U.S. Postal Service has been learned about Amtrak and answering questions, and one man died, another one was exposed, and people in the House of Representatives got sick, and yep. Okay, now. That was in 2001. That was October 10th, 2001, when they posted that. Then, back in 2003, they got around to putting this up. FBI begins drawing up a pond looking for the anthrax. Oh yeah, the same deadly anthrax spores were stolen apparently from Fort Detrick. And they thought maybe this guy was part of it. They drained a 1 acre, 50,000 gallon pond in the Frederick Municipal Forest. It's going to take them 3 to 4 weeks. The pond is 4 to 5 foot deep. Yeah. And Dr. Stephen Hatfield, a bioterrorism expert who formerly worked at the researcher at the Institute, has been described as a person of interest in his investigation. His department was next to Fort Detrick. Hatfield has denied any involvement in the attacks. And I believe him. I don't think he was. It's like passing the buck, hide everything, nobody goes to jail. Nothing changes. But that's when you want to get something through, that's what you do. You got people running all different directions. And that's what they're going to do with the, if they don't get these bills through, you're going to have another mass shooting somewhere. They're not going to stop until they get something passed. Bank on it. Thanks for watching.